Bueno, seguimos aquí transmitiendo directamente desde Puerto Rico. Gracias a toda la gente que está conectada. Y seguimos, Luquita, seguimos porque lo prometido es deuda,
Exactamente, Fisu. Bueno, toda mi vida he soñado con tener algún contacto con alguien de una de las bandas que más me gusta de la música, que es Genesis. Y entre todos los músicos que he entrevistado, bueno, por fin puedo alcanzar uno de mis sueños, que es tener cara a cara, en vivo, a una de las personas que admiro mucho, que es Steve Hackett. Steve Hackett ya fue introducido en el Hall of Fame. Grabó 9 discos con Genesis y 25 discos solistas. Grabó discos con GTR, grabó discos con otras bandas. Es increíble la cantidad de creatividad que tiene este hombre. Y bueno, ahora lo tenemos en vivo y vamos a darle un aplauso a Steve Hackett.
How you doing?
How are you doing, Steve?
Oh, very good, very good, very good.
I'm so excited to having this opportunity to meet you at least digitally or on the internet, but still face to face. Okay. Thank you for doing this.
Okay, my pleasure.
I'm gonna be translated a little bit. Okay. So every time I find a spot, maybe I'm gonna just say something about what you say, so people that speak Spanish and don't speak English might feel that we're talking about. Actually, I wanna show you something. Te quiero mostrar algo. I found this. I have very few record stores here in Hollywood, and in one of them, I found this. I wanna get closer. I don't know if you see. That is signed. And it says Steve. I don't know if you're able to see your own autograph. I mean, if it's
I can. Yeah, I can. Yeah.
It is real, because it was like, wow.
Yeah, looks real to me.
It. Is you okay?
Real. Yeah.
Yeah, poor Todd. I mean, I don't know who's Todd, but now it's mine. So, we're going to be talking about, vamos a hablar del nuevo disco. We're going to talk about the new album. It's a live album, es un disco en vivo, and it's called Selling England by the Pound. Bueno, es live in the Hammersmith Apollo. Es un disco que va a salir pronto. It's going to be released soon. And tell me about the new album, Steve.
Okay. We filmed it last year. It's DVD, Blu-ray, CD, all of those things. The mix is in stereo. There's a surround sound mix. The surround sound mix is done by Stephen Wilson. The stereo mix is by Roger King, who is an extraordinary keyboard player and arranger and orchestrator. He's one of the guys in this extraordinary band. The CD, the audio, basically, it's the whole of Selling England by the Pound from 1973. There is also Spectral Mornings, solo album of mine, 1979. And some songs like Under the Eye of the Sun from At the Edge of Light. So it's really 3 albums plus 2 more Genesis tracks, which are from Trick of the Tail, Dance on a Volcano, and Los Endos. So it's a whole bunch of my favorite albums, my favorite Genesis album, my favorite solo album, and recently people were comparing the At the Edge of Light with Spectral Mornings. So it's a number of really favorite things, all of which work very, very well live. It's an extraordinary band. 2 Swedish guys in the band, Nat Sylvan and Jonas Reingold, and Craig Blundell on drums, Rob Townsend, saxes, flutes, Roger King. Also, there is Amanda Lehman, girl singer, who's on some of the tracks. Also, my brother doing a guest spot playing flute. And so it was an incredible evening.
Bueno, mira, estaba...
It is the best live album I ever made, this one, you know. The whole of Selling England, plus one more track that Peter Gabriel wrote for Selling England by the Pound, which didn't go on the album, but it was a great song. And so I've included that, a song that we wrote together. So we do the complete Selling England by the Pound. And I know it was an important album in the whole of South America. So I'm very happy to be bringing the entire thing to everybody.
Wow. Okay, let's see what I remember to translate.
Yeah, sorry. I should answer, I say, muy pequeño, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
Muy poco.
Ok, bueno, lo que estaba diciendo es que la compilación de en vivo que acaba de sacar contiene todo el material que él más le gusta, su material favorito, ya sea de Genesis y solista. Es un disco que sale en todos los formatos, CD, DVD, Blu-ray, y ha sido trabajado por Steve Wilson en la parte del surrounding, así que tiene un sonido espectacular. Si tenés un buen equipo de audio, lo vas a poder escuchar como si estuvieras ahí en vivo. Tiene a toda su banda, en la que incluye a su hermano, donde toca la flauta. Con el hermano means brother, okay? I'm talking about your brother. Hermano. Yeah. El hermano toca la flauta y tiene, bueno, músicos de Suecia que participan en la banda, así que es un disco muy, muy completo, porque contiene incluso 2 temas extra de Genesis. Tiene un tema compuesto por Peter Gabriel, que le gusta mucho. Estoy tratando de darles un poquito general lo que me dijo en 3-4 minutos, se lo estoy compilando en un poquito. Después, lógicamente, siempre pueden verlo en las reiteraciones con los subtítulos. Wow, amazing. You mentioned something about, I was going to ask you why Selling England by the Pound, why you choose that one in particular, but you mentioned it's your favorite? Okay, so you mentioned something about you choose your favorite album. I don't know if I'm right, but why did you choose among all the Genesis albums you already participated? Why you choose this one in particular?
Well, you know, it's from a time when John Lennon said Genesis was one of the bands that he was listening to, and so that for me is a big recommendation as regards this album. And when we were still a very young band, but I think that the music was very original at this time, muy romantico, you know, and very imaginative, many different styles, pan genre, comedia, songs of the heart, corazon. Many things, social comment, little bit like pantomime, so many styles. So really very, very happy with that album. I think there's a lot of different ideas, and it's an album that keeps selling and getting more famous all the time, but it happens to be my favorite Genesis album.
Bueno, él nos comenta de que en la época que estaba ese disco, John Lennon dijo que es una de las bandas que él escucha, y para ellos, siendo tan prácticamente básicamente en los comienzos, era una cosa que John Lennon diga eso, era impresionante. Entonces, bueno, entre otras cosas, básicamente lo explicó un poquito más de lo del disco, y es uno de sus discos definitivamente favoritos. How many people participate? I mean, were on the show, on the Hammer Mission Apollo?
If you're talking about the people, I mean, probably if you take everyone from backstage, about 30 people. I mean, it's an extraordinary amount of people involved with putting on the show. But it was a very, very, very nice evening. We're going to be doing some more shows in London. Next year, we're doing the Palladium, 3 nights at the Palladium. So the interest is growing all the time, and particularly for this classic Genesis era. But I'm making solo albums all the time. I'm recording at home, and as I will be spending a lot of time next year. Once the virus is sorted, touring in America and all over, I'm busier than ever. No retirement. I don't do retirement. I just play more and more styles, and I love to do both rock music and Oriental music, classical music. I do many different kinds of things. So the idea is to be passionate about so many things. There's a side of me that's a Spanish guitarist. There's another side that's a classical player. There's another side that's a rock player. There's another side which is jazz, blues, world music, and music full of surprises. For me, very, very important. And I'm doing lots of collaborations with people at the moment. So I'm very pleased about that. And playing on a lot of people's albums. I was working with Alan Parsons on his latest album.
The Secret,
Yeah, playing The Sorcerer's Apprentice. So both, rock guitar from me and orchestra, and Alan's work producing, because he's an extraordinary producer. He worked with the Beatles, with Pink Floyd, Al Stewart, Year of the Cat, masses of things. Very sweet, clever guy, and
I think he's living here in California, right?
I believe so. I usually see him when he's traveling to Italy, or sometimes we meet up on Cruise to the Edge with the Yes guys, and really, and a lot of those bands are very, very interesting. All of that,
Bueno, let me translate a little bit. Bueno, él estaba comentando un poco de todo, pero bueno, con la parte de Alan Parsons, él tocó en el último disco de Secret y bueno, trabajar con él es impresionante. Mencionó parte de lo que ha hecho Alan Parsons, como trabajar con Pink Floyd, de los Beatles y un montón de artistas y bueno, él puso las guitarras en el disco, lo pueden escuchar, yo lo tengo acá en casa, The Secret, y bueno, imagínense tener a Steve Hackett y Alan Parsons todos juntos. Bueno, después le dije, creo que vive acá, estoy casi seguro que vive acá, porque me lo he cruzado al menos un par de veces por la calle, así que me dice, mira, nosotros nos encontramos en Italia, o en algún crucero cuando tocó Yes, y ahí podemos charlar. How was the first time you met Alan?
I met Alan many years ago at a thing called the Producers Guild, and there were many people there, and I didn't really get a chance to talk to him at that time, but he phoned me up recently and complimented me on my work and guitar and all of that, and I worked on this album of his. It took 2 days of my time, because I did some stuff, and then he was very picky, and I said, well, we could do some alternative stuff. We can bend notes right at the beginning of it. And the stuff that Paul Dukas wrote for The Sorcerer's Apprentice, I did 3-part harmony on guitar, but they're not all straight notes. They're in different directions. Of course, famous piece of music made famous by Disney, with the thing with Mickey Mouse, when it's all getting out of hand, where the buckets of water are going everywhere and all of that. But he's done a great version of it. It's a huge orchestra and rock band. It's very much up my street. I like the idea of orchestras and rock bands getting together. There's these different schools of thought.
I love that, yeah. Bueno, le pregunté cómo lo conoció a Alan y me comentaba de que se habían conocido en un evento de producción, de música, tipo una convención, si no me equivoco, y bueno, ahí no tuvieron mucha oportunidad de hablar, pero después Alan lo encaró y bueno, pudieron intercambiar información y conectarse desde entonces. Bueno, ahí en el disco Steve pudo pudo tocar mucho las guitarras, le tomó 2 días proporcionar su parte de guitarras y a él le gusta mucho la combinación de orquesta y rock, combinar todo eso entre orquesta y rock, a él le gusta mucho. Let's go back a little bit about Under the Eye of the Sun. Why you choose this single video among the whole show? ¿Por qué elegiste este video entre todo el concierto?
When it was being mixed by Steven Wilson, he said he thought it was a great number, and outside the band, really, and close friends, he was the only person who'd really heard that, and it has an extraordinary kind of energy to it. It just charges along. You get 3-part harmony, nearly everyone in the band singing, and you can really see what the rhythm section can do on that. It's furiously fast bass work. Jonas Reingold is an incredible Swedish bass player, fantastic. Craig Blundell. Craig has worked with masses of people. I knew that he was working with Steven Wilson, and he said he wanted to work with me, and that was great. He came to one of our shows, and we got him into the band. And he's extraordinary. He's known as the Keith Moon of prog. He's really extraordinary. Yeah. So just the rhythm section alone are fantastic.
Wow.
On this particular song. And I'm playing my Fernandez guitar, which used to belong to Gary Moore. You know Gary Moore, the guitarist? Okay.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, incredible. Rest in peace, indeed. Along with Peter Green, rest in peace.
Yeah.
Guitarists in their own right. And I happen to love the song. We did a video a while back, which was all just done with photographs that we'd taken in Monument Valley, in Arizona and Utah.
Okay.
And also Uluru in Australia, and in Jordan. And it was incredible. All these places look like they are the same place because it's the red of the earth. But it's extraordinary, you know.
Good. Fisu, ¿me hablaste?
It's a great sounding song.
Fisu?
No, tranquilo. Estoy poniendo el video de fondo.
Okay, no, I was listening like someone calling me. I hear voices sometimes, Steve. I don't know what happened with all this madness in the world. I hear voices.
You are a visionary. You hear voices.
Yeah. Hopefully they are not going to tell me kill, because...
No. Yeah.
So, le estaba preguntando de por qué eligió este tema en particular de todo el concierto, y me dijo, bueno, Steve Wilson tiene una capacidad para captar la música en distintos niveles, y él le pareció que este era el tema ideal como para empezar a promocionar, y habló un poquito de la sección rítmica, estos muchachos que tocan el bajo y todo, que le hicieron que este tema en particular sonara de manera impresionante y fuera justamente la razón por la que lo eligieron. Habló un montón de cosas, lo que pasa que, bueno, trato de simplemente darles una traducción del punto en particular de lo más importante. I know you were not involved in the progress. We're going to talk about the Genesis. Vamos a hablar de Genesis. Él estuvo en la era progresiva, pero no en la era comercial. ¿Qué piensa de eso? What do you think about the commercial times? You were not involved in the commercial time. You were in the prog in the 70s. So,
yes.
Were you, if you were probably stayed in the band, will you enjoy that, or you were like, okay, I love it, but not for me? How do you feel about that?
Well, I would say, yeah, not for me, because I'm interested in vocal work and instrumental work, and not just the vocals. You know, for me, music has to be a big adventure. Many different styles, each song can be a odyssey. And, I think that when Genesis were, after Peter Gabriel left and after I left, a band that's finding so much success with MTV, suddenly, songs like Supper's Ready, which are nearly half an hour long, it's got to be 3 or 4 minutes and very, very snappy, very, very quick. Fine, big commercial success, but, I figured that when I play live, if they reform to do that, they'll prioritize the 1980s where they had most of their hits. Yeah. But I'll celebrate the 1970s, the era that John Lennon said. Yeah. Genesis, as I say, was one of the bands that he was listening to. So for me, that's my proudest moment. So both eras of the band have some extraordinary value, whether it's one style or the other. But I enjoy the style that I get musicians coming up saying, I took up the instrument because you guys were doing it this way. And even the other day I was talking to Guy Garvey of Elbow, and we've just become friends, and he said Genesis were a huge influence on him in this early era of the band. So I said to him, actually, I think the two best bands around at the moment, new bands, are Elbow and Muse for me. So we're sort of doing this fan thing with each other. The story isn't over. The thing is, we all live forever anyway, so... Well, as John Lennon said.
Ok. Bueno, él nos estaba comentando de que si bien la era comercial ya estaba conectada con MTV, entonces para él está más enfocado en generar canciones por ahí con otro tipo de producción. La era comercial de Genesis no hubiera sido ideal para él, por eso claramente no participó, y que de repente él prefiere más trabajar en la parte instrumental y no tanto vocal, pero sí vocal. Y de esa manera, incluso si lo hubieran convocado para tocar en vivo, de vuelta, sería complicado porque toda esa parte él no le convence como para tocar. Él prefiere tocar los 70, y que bueno, la parte de los años 70, de 70s, hay mucha gente que fue inspirada, como Elbow y la gente de Muse, que lo han contactado, en especial de Elbow, y le han dicho que, bueno, han seguido ciertas cosas que él ha podido exponer en los 70 en Genesis. So I assume it's a stupid probably, but not something that I cannot ask, but reunion is not going to happen ever, right?
I always say that I'm always open to it, but I'm not expecting it because you can't change the ethos of something that I personally think it's important to keep making albums rather than to be a museum act. It's important to do new stuff, to move on. The exhibits are there from the past, and we have had reunions. I did a reunion with Peter Gabriel, Milton Keynes in the early 1980s. We did that to help out with the WOMAD Festival, and then I did a charity show, and Peter Gabriel and Mike Rutherford joined me on that. So there have been reunions, except that people always want you to ride off into the sunset together, and I don't think that's going to happen. But I'm still friends with them all. That's the main thing. Oh. So there is always the possibility, but it's a very competitive band, and we did a lot of great music together at one time, and it's important to be involved in music still now and to be vital. I'm working with new people all the time.
Yeah. Bueno, con respecto a la reunión, dice que él siempre puede llegar. Él está por ahí abierto a que pudiera pasar, pero es muy difícil porque él prefiere seguir componiendo y generando nuevos álbumes que convertirse en una especie de banda museo y recordar el pasado. Entonces, básicamente, él se ha reunido con Peter Gabriel y con su hermano, han participado. La relación con la gente, con los otros músicos, siguen siendo amigos, pero bueno, básicamente él prefiere enfocarse en el futuro y no en el pasado. You mentioned something about working with Peter in the past. Since you are not in Genesis, yes. There's any chance also maybe someday collaborate together again, work in something again?
I'm always open to those ideas, and I see Pete from time to time. You know, when I get to see him, I never want to hustle him because he's a friend. And so the last thing we talk about is reunions.
But I feel he has a...
Very affectionate with each other. And so for us, it's not work. What it is two old friends get to talk from time to time. And I'm just happy he's still there, and he's happy I'm still here. You know, it's, we did a lot together, and I'm very proud of it.
But I feel he has a big heart. I don't know him personally. Yeah, I don't know his personality.
Yes, but he's a great guy. He's been very, very involved with social and political issues, and he cares a lot about people. So he's a rare thing in rock and roll, a genuinely nice guy.
Yeah. Bueno, estaba hablando de reunirse, hacer algo con Peter Gabriel de vuelta, y me dijo, mira, somos amigos, hablamos de tiempo en tiempo, no quiero realmente volverme una molestia para él en proponerle cosas, tal vez en algún momento se dé, pero eso es lo que él piensa en este momento de no complicarle demasiado la vida. Le digo, pero Peter tiene un gran corazón, y dice, sí, él le importa a la gente y ha hecho un montón de cosas en colaboración en distintas direcciones con el planeta, y bueno, eso de repente, bueno, ojalá el día de mañana se puedan hacer algo juntos. En the álbum, let me say it in Spanish so then I can translate. En el álbum de Age of Life, él tuvo a Nick de Virgilio y Simon Phillips. ¿Cómo eliges las personas que tocan en tus álbumes? How do you have Nick and Simon playing drums? How do you choose the musicians that are going to play in your albums?
Well, I had about 20 people on the album from all over the world, from Azerbaijan, you know, from the four corners of the globe, you know, to be sort of how you say, amigo del mundo is muy importante.
Oh, bien.
Yeah. So I work with a tar player from Azerbaijan, a sitar player from India, this girl called Shima Mukherjee. And, you know, these people are virtuosos. They're incredible. Some of them are in rock. Some of them are in raga. Some of them are in mugam, which is a little bit like Arabian jazz. So to cast a very wide net over the whole of music is something which engages my interest and makes it a little bit like a kind of United Nations of musicians.
Since you mentioned that you like war music,
yes.
And you have at least 25 studio albums, there's any connection with Latin America, with
Yes.
music from Latin America? There's something you can...
Yes. I made an album in Brazil called Till We Have Faces, which had many Brazilian musicians. And I play, these days, I play from Peru. I have a charango, which is a beautiful instrument. And I
have one too.
You have one? I sometimes use it like a mandolino. Is that the right word in Espanol? Mandolino? Like
mandolin.
Sometimes I use it for this, and percussion instruments, the rain stick, the Brazilians call it pão de chuva, they call it. It sounds like the sea. all of that. And I love these instruments that really are not really found within rock and roll. I mean, at the moment, I'm playing a thing from Vietnam. It's like a koto, and they call it a dine shine, and it's a beautiful instrument, pentatonic scale, 5 notes. You can tune to different scales, major and minor. So I'm working with that to create a feeling of Oriental music, as it's an area that I started when I was doing Spectral Mornings, this thing about the beauty of the Orient, of the East, and mixing these different scales together. It started with Please Don't Touch. It went into Spectral Mornings. I did it with Till We Have Faces. In fact, even when I was with Genesis, I was playing kalimba, which is African thumb piano.
Yeah, kalimba.
And these different instruments, first of all, you find something and you think, I don't think I can use that. It's not going to be part of rock and roll. But then we think rock and roll shoulders, have to be big enough to encompass these other things. So, of course, the world of Latino stuff is hugely influential, not just in percussion, but different composers. Ginastera, you have many, Astor Piazzolla, many, even Trio Las Panchas, I mean, I listen to all of it. I listen to the old stuff, the new stuff, Ney Matogrosso, absolutely love it. It was a marvelous Brazilian guitarist called Rafael Rebelo, and I met him, and he played with the dexterity of a flamenco player, but, with that Brazilian lyrical style. And he was a little bit like the John McLaughlin of Brazil in a way, on acoustic. And unfortunately, he died very, very, very young. So you're asking me about South America. I have some connection.
There's any let me translate a little bit. I'm going to translate. Bueno, le pregunté un poquito su conexión con América Latina. Él hizo un disco que está basado en música brasilera, uno de sus discos solistas. Él está muy conectado con la música, él escucha mucha música en general. Mencionó varios artistas como Mato Grosso, Piazzolla. Él está realmente influenciado. Está muy abierto en cuestiones musicales en general, no solo en rock. Y eso es algo que lo hace un músico, por eso lo hace un músico realmente brillante, porque cuando un músico se concentra en un solo estilo es fantástico, pero cuando realmente se amplía musicalmente, le permite de repente tener un montón de influencias, y eso se vuelve es como que hace una especie de feedback y vuelve a la música que el músico produce, y eso se siente en los fans. I had something that you didn't say, but it was my opinion. When you are influenced by so many music and you put it in the music go through your soul, and yes, then you compose that, fans, people that listen music, people that really enjoy and music is a lifestyle, feeling from your music,
Yeah, it's music was always I say muy importante. Even when
I feel you speak Spanish fluently.
I forgot so many things, but hablo español muy bien. Yourself. Very good. Inglesi. Very good.
Good.
Bueno.
Well, whatever you say in Spanish will be appreciated.
Okay.
People that speak Spanish love when you're trying, even if you don't say, they love it.
Okay. Yes. Hey.
So,
Cisco.
There's any plans? I mean, you mentioned Brazilian music, which I love. I love samba. I love pagode. I love many music styles from Brazil. You mentioned Peru. You mentioned Piazzolla. Have you ever think to do something or related with tango?
Well, I used an influence of that on one thing I did many years ago, a thing called Mechanical Bride, which was on that album, To Watch the Storms, that you have there. There's one moment in it which I took from an influence of Piazzolla, the band that he'd worked with, where it's when you take that tango rhythm, but you slow it right down, and everyone thinks of dum, 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 like a habanera, this thing, okay? And yet, when it's very slow, we had a moment where it went boom, 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 dum, 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 dum. And it's like the silences in between take forever if you slow it right down. And suddenly it's a rhythm that instead of being predictable, it's full of surprise. It's one extreme of what you could do with a familiar rhythm. It's just taking a different take on it. So I was listening to an album of Gary Burton playing the work Gary Burton playing vibes on Astor Piazzolla stuff. And it's very, very interesting. It's obviously the Argentinian thing was hugely important.
You mentioned something about the rhythm, and I am not a musician. Clearly, I'm just someone that enjoy music on the other side. But I know when I feel that when musicians can really use the silent in the music, in the song, gives sometimes a spin-off or a different way to experience music. It's not just playing notes over notes. Sometimes it's enjoyable to have a tiny moment of silence within the song that create the contrary of the sound.
Yes. Well, to have wide dynamics, to have something that can be very quiet one minute and very loud the next, and you can put silences into places. It's become one of the things from progressive music that was inherited from progressive jazz, from people such as Ornette Coleman. So this idea is a fairly old one. So musicians are forced to become historians at times. Sometimes we have to look backwards for the answers to the future. And I love lyrical music. I love the nylon guitar. The Brazilians call it the violon. I love Segovia, the work of Segovia, and I was always writing things. I thought if he was still alive, he might like this to play. I would try and write something in the style of something. I've been working on an album which I have finished, which is orchestra and guitar, because I know that he had the idea that the guitar should be incorporated into the orchestra, an extension of the orchestra. The guitar is already an orchestra, of course, but a much smaller version of that. But you have all the colors, but much smaller.
Right.
But it's an extraordinary combination when you have a great orchestra and you have beautiful, sensitive guitar. It's very romantic, and it's something that I think touches people of both men and women. I think you have this when you have the popularity of Concerto de Aranjuez, for instance. Rodrigo, the work of this beautiful stuff, the stuff that influenced Miles Davis' Sketches of Spain. It's Miles Davis who made Rodrigo world famous with this stuff. It's ironic that jazz promoted classical music, and I'm sorry I'm not saying this in Spanish, in español, but
So, how many songs you already composed that you never released?
I write thousands of things down in a book. Many riffs for songs that don't get finished. So, but I'm working all the time. Every day I write music. Sometimes in my sleep I write music.
How do you remember the next morning? I can't.
You have to write it down. You have to
right away, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I can say in Portuguese, maybe not in Spanish, but
Okay.
Precisa de escrever.
Precisa de escribir.
Sí, yes. Immediatamente. All right. Muy rápido, because the memory.
Yeah.
Sueños, it's gone.
Yeah. Well, unless hopefully you don't suffer from insomnia, because if I do this, if I just try to turn on the light, I'm done. I'm not gonna sleep for the rest of the night.
Right.
So
yes.
lucky you.
Well, I spend less time sleeping now, because you reach a certain point, and I tend to wake up in the middle of the night now. So sometimes I get up and I just think, oh, to hell with it. I'll have an early breakfast. And I start reading and writing, and it's a very productive time in the middle of the night, believe me.
Bueno, me le estaba preguntando cuántas canciones tiene compuestas, pero no lanzadas, y se tiene miles de cosas escritas y compuestas. A veces a la noche sigue componiendo, continúa componiendo, y de repente a medianoche está soñando y se le ocurre algo y lo tiene que agarrar y escribir. Le dije que, bueno, yo tengo insomnio a veces, entonces si me pongo a escribir algo a la medianoche de que se me ocurre una buena idea, ya me quedo despierto. Pero bueno, él agarra y se despierta y compone, y de repente se queda ya trabajando y tiene un desayuno temprano, como lo dijo en inglés. You were part of the Hall of Fame. Why they call you among all the Genesis members? Probably, I don't know, Peter, why didn't I think he didn't participate, but why you felt they called you, and there were many other members on the band?
Yes.
To be part of.
Well, don't know. Maybe they've got very good taste, I hope.
Yeah, good answer.
Yeah.
Bueno, él decía que tienen por ahí buen gusto en elegir a la gente que participara en el Hall of Fame. Por eso lo convocaron a él.
Yeah. Listen, it's been great talking to you. I have to go do something. I'm so sorry, but
no need to. We have
your audience here. Thank you. Thank you so
obviously, much. and I appreciate, Steve, that you took the time to talk not only with me, for your Spanish speaker fans and everyone, and I appreciate that. And hopefully we can. There's a tons of questions for you, but eventually we're gonna have a revenge soon.
Oh, good. Okay.
Okay. So bueno, I'm gonna
soon.
Say it again.
We talk soon.
Yeah, of course. Don't leave. We're gonna be out of the air and gonna talk to you just briefly, okay? And I would like to say again, thank you. Just say whatever you want to your fans.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for listening all this time, and I hope to be playing live next year, post-COVID, and I'm sure it's going to be great. The world will recover from all of this, and life becomes, they say, la vida, it becomes more and more precious when we see friends. So,
muy bien.
Love to everybody.
Muy bien, bueno, ese fue Steve Hackett. Gracias por todo. Vamos a ir a una pausa y enseguida volvemos con más.